I'm introduce myself. I'm John Ross, and I live close to where we are today, but I had the privilege of being a commissioner with the Northern Lighthouse Board for 9 years, now retired, but delighted to be involved in this project. And with me is Dr. Barry Miller. Barry Miller was a teacher and a lecturer, but for 20 years or so he's the retained lighthouse keeper, looking after on a part-time basis lights in Wigtonshire and in Ayrshire. So here we are at Killantringan Lighthouse. It's been decommissioned, and Barry will tell you about what happened in the decommissioning. But fortunately it's on a beautiful part of the South Rhins of Wigtonshire. It looks out across the North Channel to Ireland. It's been purchased some time ago by private owners, and I'm pleased to say that, as you will see from the work that they've been done on this, that it is being maintained to a very high standard and adds to the interest and the beauty of the lighthouses that we're looking at in the South Rhins of Wigtonshire. So Barry, can you tell us about the history? And you were around at the decommissioning, so perhaps you could explain some of that to us.
Right, that's right, John, yes. The lighthouse was actually built in 1900, so it's a relatively new lighthouse.
Yeah.
It's not on a promontory, unlike most of the other lighthouses in the area. The reason why it was built and the reason why it's not on a promontory is the mariners require to see at least two lighthouses when they're sailing up the coast in order to take bearings on them to fix the position. So there was a gap between Mull of Galloway and Corswell. So there are two lighthouses that fill that gap. There's Killantringan, and then there's the other lighthouse just to the south of Killantringan.
Yep.
So that's why it was commissioned. Originally it had a foghorn, and the two others on this coast had foghorns as well. It operated, it was demanned in 1988, yes. Made automatic, and then in 2005 a decision was made that it was no longer required because the other lighthouses could be seen effectively by ships. So in actual fact in 2007 the light was turned off.
And were you involved in anything to do with the decommissioning of this light?
Yes, I was. There was a consultation period between 2005 and 2007, so obviously there was quite a lot of paperwork involved in that. Like I say, the other lighthouses, Cranmarkhead, Mull of Galloway and Corswell, provided sufficient coverage of this coast, so eventually it was decided it would go. And I've actually got my diary here of the day that I turned it off. Would it be of any interest if I told you exactly what?
It'd be very good to have that diary in,
right,
because that's a little bit of history about this building.
I looked on the internet, and the internet indicated it was closed in 2005. That's not true. It was Wednesday the 27th of June 2007. Here's what I did. I came here at 10:30 in the morning. I switched off the master DC supply to optic number 1 and optic number 2. I then turned off the essential supplies, AC current, removed the 3 bottom fuses from that. The lighthouses are relatively complex. This particular one had a main light, a standby light and an emergency light, the idea being if one fails another one comes in. And in addition to that it has a diesel generator, so if you start turning off stuff the diesel generator kicks in and the light keeps going. So I then had to turn off the engine chargers, turn off the engine fuel, and then I had to turn off the AC supply to the battery chargers, and then finally I had to turn off an automatic changeover cubicle which switched the power should one have gone. Finally I had to contact headquarters and tell them it was off. It took me 1 hour, and my final action in the light was to write in Latin script Fiat Lux, and then I entered that in the logbook and left. Fiat Lux being Genesis 1:3, let there be light.
Did you, I mean, you must have had some sort of emotional feeling that, that you were turning something off that had been going since 1900.
Yeah, well, it had been going for 107 years. I think it probably never missed a night.
Yeah.
However, I turned it off, I was gone within an hour, and I went on to do a job at the Mull of Galloway. So that was my day's work.
Right. Now, we're standing looking out onto the North Channel, and just below where we're standing, I can see the remains of a cargo ship that came aground. Now, I was around at the time, but you were also around, Barry, so
that's right.
What happened and how did this come about?
Yeah, it was the MV Craigantlith. It was a container vessel. It was 800 tonnes, 80 metres long. It was en route from Belfast to Liverpool, and I believe the crew had put it onto automatic pilot and had fallen asleep, and they obviously didn't set their automatic pilot correctly. Anyway, it ran aground here. It broke its back shortly after it ran aground. It had a lot of containers, both deck cargo containers and containers below. Some of them contained hazardous chemicals, and the whole area was cordoned off for some time, including the keepers who were then in residence. They were moved out, and a temporary beacon was put on the point. So
actually, what's amazing is we're looking at where it came aground. If it had been 100 metres south or 100 metres north, it could have been quite dangerous for the crew, because they would have gone straight into rock. But fortunately for them, they were totally unharmed, and a helicopter, I understand, picked them off without any danger.
There were 11 crew, John, and the Sea King helicopter from Prestwick lifted them. I think the Isle of Man Coast Guard coordinated the rescue, and the Portpatrick lifeboat was out in the bay observing as the crew were taken off.
But if I remember correctly, it made national news.
Indeed,
and of course with the cargo not being fully documented, it was quite an event.
That's right. You could say it was a bad day for the Lighthouse, a ship crashing this.
The lighthouse keeper saw her coming in.
It was the lighthouse keepers who alerted the Coast Guard in actual fact. So they knew before the crew knew that it was about to hit the rocks.
So I think, Barry, that would be the sort of, that would be the one story that everyone who had anything to do with this lighthouse remembers most clearly.
Indeed, that's right, John, yes.